Imagine a country where, just 40 years ago, most people lived in rural areas, without basic sanitation, with a stagnant economy, and isolated from the rest of the world. Now, imagine that same country leading in technology, infrastructure, and competing head-to-head with the United States for the top of the global economy. This isn't fiction. It's the real story of China. And the most astonishing part? All of this happened in less than half a century. In this video, you'll see how China transformed itself from an impoverished agrarian nation into a modern superpower, step by step, and why its rise reshaped the global balance of power. Like the video, subscribe, and come with me on this journey through one of the most remarkable economic transformations in human history. It all began with Deng Xiaoping, the leader who took power after decades of turmoil. China had just endured a traumatic era: the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, famine, repression, and international isolation. Deng looked at the ruins of that period and decided to change, not by abandoning communism, but by adapting the economy. He launched a policy known as reform and opening up. In practice, that meant allowing farmers to sell their crops, encouraging private businesses to emerge, and opening specific regions to foreign investment, the so-called special economic zones. Shenzhen is the best example. In 1980, it was a fishing village with fewer than 30,000 people. Today, it's a megacity of over 17 million and one of the world's leading technology hubs. This created a hybrid system: political communism combined with market economics. And it worked. China's GDP began growing at an average of 9% per year. Hundreds of millions were lifted out of poverty, and the world began to take notice. With its economic foundation set, China dove headfirst into industrialization. Millions of rural workers moved to cities, fueling factories that produced everything, from toys to electronics. The country became the world's manufacturing hub. Foreign companies rushed in to set up production lines, drawn by low labor costs and rapidly expanding infrastructure. Meanwhile, the government invested massively in highways, ports, energy, and housing. Cities like Guangzhou, Chengdu, and Wuhan exploded in size, becoming major industrial and logistics centers. This stage turned China into the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, and created an emerging middle class with purchasing power and global aspirations. Between 1990 and 2000 alone, more than 100 million people escaped extreme poverty, a transformation without historical precedent. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization. That was a turning point. With access to global markets, exports surged. Made-in-China products filled shelves across every continent. Electronics, clothing, tools, toys. Chinese companies like Lenovo, Haier, and Huawei began competing worldwide. And China started amassing vast foreign reserves, which it used to invest strategically abroad: ports in Africa, railways in Asia, real estate in Europe. This marked China's rise as a global economic and diplomatic force. It was no longer just a cheap factory. It became a nation with global ambitions and growing influence. As trade expanded, so did China's global reach. It began financing major infrastructure projects in developing countries, offering loans, technology, and expertise as part of a long-term strategy. China also began to reinvent its image, moving from imitation to innovation. New tech giants emerged: Alibaba, Tencent, DJI, and ByteDance. The country invested heavily in artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, 5G, quantum computing, and biotechnology. Its infrastructure boom was equally breathtaking. Over 45,000 kilometers of high-speed rail lines now connect major cities like an urban metro system. Futuristic airports, massive bridges, and entire new cities built from scratch showcase a model of rapid, large-scale development. Projects that would take decades elsewhere are completed in just a few years. Then came the Belt and Road Initiative, a global infrastructure network linking more than 60 countries through ports, railways, and energy corridors. Its geopolitics built on concrete, steel, and long-term strategy. China also began exporting its own technology. Chinese-made trains now run in Indonesia, Laos, and Kenya. Infrastructure itself became a new instrument of foreign policy. Today, China competes with the United States across multiple fronts: technology, diplomacy, clean energy, and military presence. It leads in artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, solar power, and advanced manufacturing. It maintains strategic positions in the Indo-Pacific and the South China Sea, and it's taking an increasingly active role in global organizations and development initiatives. But the path forward isn't without challenges. An aging population, tensions with Taiwan, and an economic slowdown are testing the country's resilience. China also faces a key question: how to sustain innovation and openness while maintaining strict political control. Even so, it stands firm as one of the defining powers of the 21st century, with a model different from the West, built on long-term planning, discipline, and relentless execution. China's rise wasn't luck, it was strategy. From rice fields to artificial intelligence, from isolation to global leadership, all in less than 50 years. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it, because understanding China's transformation is key to understanding the world we live in today.